Hello and welcome to the Empower Hour. Hope you all are having a great Sunday fun day. This is something we do every single Sunday where we come to you and we discuss things that XJWs are normally having issues with. We discuss things to help people move forward in life. And that's what we do here. We're not here to harp on the past, but to help you move forward. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe and share this video with all the XJWs you know, because we're always sharing things that are helpful. Not a lot of people understand the world we come from. So it's nice to get together with people who have walked your path and who have some insight that can help you to move forward. Today, we're going to be talking about bad qualities that we may still be holding on to from having that history as a Jehovah Witness. And it's not all bad. We don't want to sit here and act like everything was negative because obviously there were some things that benefit us today. For instance, I'm a motivational speaker. Well, it doesn't hurt that I've been on stage since I was in the third grade, right? Being in front of people, that's a plus. We had great communities while we were there. There are pluses, but there are also negative things that may stick with us because we are wired to look at the world a certain way. For most of us, from a very young age, where we're very impressionable. They say that the things that are taught to you before the age of 8 years old shape the way you see the world. You see, before 8 years old, you really don't have a filter to discern things for yourself. So, what authority figures tell you becomes your truth, and you look at the world that way. So, leaving the doctrine, leaving the religious beliefs of the Jehovah Witnesses doesn't mean that you are free from thinking like a Jehovah Witness. That makes sense? There are layers to it. So a lot of times when people tell me, I'm free, I say, leaving the witnesses is the first step to being free. It doesn't necessarily make you free. So let's talk about some of those things. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, the people in our Facebook group, the Empowered Minds XJW group, the link is in the description and in the text or watching this live. So go ahead and hit that link and join the group. But again, let's go through some of the things that XJWs struggle with a lot. Number one, XJWs tend to struggle with self-esteem. They tend to think too little of themselves. Because while you were a Jehovah's Witness, it was never about you. It was always about your service toward an organization. Growing up, and most of you grew up as a witness, you grew up feeling very disposable. Your whole life, you watched people just get discarded because they were struggling with something. They got disfellowshipped. They were just discarded. They were not treated with individual value. For so much of your life, you were told that there was something wrong with thinking much of yourself. Don't think too much of yourself. Didn't you get that message that something was wrong with thinking too much of yourself? You were taught that it was humble to think little of yourself, basically. I mean, you basically were told that you were undeserving of God's kindness. You were undeserving because a woman bit an apple thousands of years ago and violated what God said not to do. That what did they tell you? That you were like a cake pan that was flawed. There was a dent in it, and all of us have the dent, all of us have the flaw. You were told early on that there's something inherently wrong with you. That doesn't help you in life, to think that something's wrong with you. Remember this: confidence and conceit are not the same thing. You can be very confident and very humble at the same time. It's not an either or. Humility is when you can always see the need for improvement or where you can improve. Humility is where you see where you're falling short, where you don't just, mistakenly tell yourself that you're great at everything. There's always going to be a need for improvement. Humility is when you can see the greatness in the person next to you. This is what I do great. That is what you do great. That is what you do great. You see, when the world binds with all their gifts and talents and they bind together and they lean on each other with the gifts that they were given, that makes the world a wonderful place. It doesn't help anyone when you think too little of yourself. When you think too little of yourself, you deny the world your gift. Part of what we do here on planet Earth is to use the gifts we were given to add value to the lives of others. You see, the gifts that we're given, they're not for us to be boastful about ourselves, but they're there for us to add value to the lives of others. And you will never become great at anything if you don't acknowledge that you're gifted. Good cannot become great without the acknowledgement of the gift. So if you are playing small and thinking small, you have ripped everyone else off of your gift. I want you to look at it this way, that if I do not live in the fullness of the gift I was given, it's not even about you, it's a gift you were given. If I do not live in the fullness of the gift I was given, I have cheated someone. I feel as if I have the gift of speech. If I did not give this gift, I could not be blessing everyone with the gift I'm given. That's my gift. Doesn't make me any better than anyone else. This is just my gift, so I use it. What is your gift? What is it that you do that adds value to the lives of others? And when you find that thing and you believe in that gift, you watch your self esteem come up. You watch you think more of yourself. Little kids get it more than adults. Little kids, watch a 4 or 5 year old kid. They're just running around the yard. They got a cape on. They're anything that they can imagine. Little kids get it. Mommy, look at me. Daddy, look at me. Look what I can do. Look what I can do. Little kids get it. You see, as a child, you were hijacked from your natural callings, from your natural desires, from the things you wanted to do. You were told that's not important. The things that you love, that's not important. You like to dance, that's not important. You like to sing, that's not important. You like artwork, that's not important. You have the gift of intellect where you got really high grades in school where you're not going to college. You see, you were hijacked from yourself. And then you were programmed subconsciously with the Jehovah Witness teachings. And 90% of what we do is subconscious. Your subconscious is programmed through repetition for the most part. So you are 10% yourself, 90% your programming. Where you were hijacked, that's what your mind comes to see. And if you were taught not to think too much of yourself. And if you're a woman, try to triple that, double or triple that, because women really, really pulled away from themselves, really made to feel small, told over and over again that you're a weaker vessel. They tried to make you so disconnected from yourself that your only purpose was to serve your man and serve an organization. And you end up so disconnected from self. So understand, everyone has the seeds of greatness in them. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has a talent. Everyone has things that come easy to them. And sometimes you look at other people and go, oh my God, that person's so gifted. I wish I was gifted like that. Well, you are. You just can't see it. You might have not discovered it, but you are. You see, your gift is somewhere where you flow, somewhere where it comes easy to you. Some people can cook and they take the spoon and go, and they know just what spice it needs. That's a gift. That tongue is magical. That's a gift. That's a gift. If you have that gift, that is a gift. Do not take that for granted. Some painters, they put a little blue on the nose. Like, why they put blue on the nose? Why they do? And you look at the finished product, you're like, wow, how did they know that? They just knew. So people are athletically gifted. Any sport, they just take a little while to get the hang of the sport. Now they're blowing everybody away. Their hand-eye coordination, the way their mind works. Sports is their genius. Everyone has a personal genius. Understand you have it. And when you understand you have it, and then you add to your life a sense of purpose, find your gift, and then start living with a sense of purpose, understanding that the gift that you are giving is adding value to the lives of others, and that there's only one you, only one, never to be repeated again, one of one special edition human being, and that's you. And watch your self-esteem start to rise. Start to tell yourself, I'm amazing. I am, because there's no other me. Stop living the truths that somebody else gave you. That's somebody else's truth. What people think about you has nothing to do with you. What people think about you has everything to do with how they see the world themselves and how they see themselves. They project their world at you, so you don't own what mommy told you, what daddy told you, what your siblings tell you. That's their stuff. People will always put their limitations upon you and try to make you believe it. Remove it. See yourself. Validate yourself. Don't wait for outside validation. The first person that needs to see it, if you want to raise your esteem, is you. You. You must see the greatness within yourself. Remember, people respond to what we're selling. If our energy is big, if we see ourselves as this special person, the people respond to that. Respond to that energy. It doesn't mean you think you're any better than anyone else. It just means that you know who you are. So be okay with thinking great things about yourself. Remember this, the words I am are the two most powerful words in the human language. I am. What follows the words I am is what gives you your superpower. Your gift is your superpower. But if you're saying, I am unworthy, I am not good enough, that is a curse you're putting upon yourself. Watch your negative self talk. No one talks to you more than you talk to yourself. Watch what you say to yourself. Stop saying negative things about yourself. I am worthy. I am gifted. I am special in my own way. I am. Watch what you put after those words if you want to raise your self esteem. Another bad quality that is left over after being a Jehovah's Witness for all those years is being judgmental. Judgmental of other people. Why? Because witnesses are very judgmental. They judge the whole world as being unworthy of life. The whole world needs to die so we can have the whole world to ourselves. That is the ultimate in judgment. This whole world is unworthy. And then there's also judgment within the religion, right? Spiritually strong, spiritually weak, this, that. I mean, there's judgment in the religion. There are some people that had the poor fate of being maybe they were maybe a single mom was bringing all her kids to the meeting, and they were always late coming because she had to do everything. She had to work. She had to get a bunch of kids and toddlers to the meeting. They were late. She didn't have the time to go out and service because she was busy taking care of kids and working. And that's the family that never got invited to the gatherings. So imagine those poor kids. They're not supposed to hang out with worldly people, and they're not accepted in the congregation either. And I know some of you were those were that kid. Some of you watching were that child. You didn't fit in either way. You felt judged all the time. You felt judged by the congregation. Then you go to school and you can't celebrate Christmas and you can't do everything else that everybody else is doing. You felt judged there too. Then how do you not judge yourself as being unworthy when you're just feeling judged all over the place? So stop judging yourself. Others are really judgmental upon themselves because maybe they got in trouble when they were a witness and they got put in the back room a few times and had to talk to the elders. And with the witnesses, when you make a mistake, that mistake follows you for months, if not years. Maybe you got this fellowship and you're begging over and over and over again to be let back in. You know what that does to your self esteem? Maybe you're this fellowship and you had to go to the meetings for a year or two with everybody just turning their heads, acting like you're invisible. How are you not going to judge yourself when you get that level of judgment? Remember, for some of you, when you make a mistake, you just beat yourself up. Understand this: mistakes are your greatest of teachers. Nothing teaches you, excuse me, like the mistakes you make. We all make mistakes. It's what we learn from them. A better version of us is always on the other side of our mistakes if we learn from them. But if we're busy beating ourselves up, we'll learn nothing. Mistakes serve us. You learn more from your failures than you ever do your successes. Stop beating yourself up. Stop being so judgmental on yourself. And stop being judgmental on others. So, judgment is not just about yourself, judgment is how you view others. You were taught to be judgmental. Again, you're thinking this whole world needs to die because God has judged them. So, how do you not judge other people? As a witness, what did you do when you were out in service in the car? They talked about people. Witnesses talk about people all the time. They're always trying to make an assessment of how is that person spiritually. Do you know how silly a question that is? Spirituality is such a personal thing, and they tie it to someone's outward appearance. Oh, he's spiritually strong, he's spiritually weak. That is for no one to tell anyone else how they're doing spiritually. Obviously, they don't know the meaning of the word spiritual, but it's used for judgment. Don't judge people. Even with the healing process, everyone's in a different place. You know, we run our group and we do the things we do, or we try to stay away from just bashing on the witnesses and all the angry stuff. But there's no judgment if you're angry. There's no judgment. I was angry. There's no judgment. Everyone's on the road and they're in their own place. They're on their own journey. They're at their own point of the journey. No judgment. You know, when you judge people, part of being hard on yourself is when you're hard on others. Because when you're hard on others and it's your turn and you fall, ooh, that's hard. Because you've been in such judgment. You see witnesses go through this all the time, where they were so judgmental and then they fall into it. Remember, your mind is like your body. Your mind can get sick. You can make bad choices because of where your head's at. You can make bad choices because you're in pain. You can make bad choices because you feel a void. You can make bad choices because you've been hurt. There's lots of reasons of why we can have a season of making bad choices, but still no judgment. And if you're a human being, you're going to go through it. You're going to have a season like that, but there's no judgment. But we were taught to judge. No, don't judge a person, help a person. See, witnesses, when somebody is in dire need or they've lost their way, there's just judgment. You're kicked out of the home. I was just talking to somebody last night, and she was abandoned at 17 years old. Come on. 17-year-old needs guidance. A 17-year-old needs a mentor, not judgment. Be kind to yourself. Regardless of your past, be kind to yourself. Remember, yesterday only exists in your mind. And if you dwell on yesterday's mistakes, that's how we get caught in the loop, because we're dwelling on yesterday and we're bringing the emotions and the feelings of yesterday into the present. And what we bring into the present, we create for the future. And then we're just in a loop where we're not going anywhere because we're not allowing ourselves to expand. I've done all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff. I don't regret any of it. I wouldn't do it again. I'm not saying I'm proud of everything. I don't regret anything because it has taught me and it's made me the person I am today. It's made me the man I am today. I'm able to help people because I did it. I've been there. I know what it's like. I don't regret very much in life. It is what it is because I can't go back and change it. So if I can't go back and change something, what did I learn from it? When's the last time when you were a witness that an elder ever asked you, what did you learn? What did you learn? Huh? So you did this thing, but what was the key thing? This is not what you did is a symptom of something else. Let's get to the core of why you're acting out that way. Just focusing on what the perceived sin is not going to fix it. That's why some of y'all might have been disfellowshipped 2 or 3 times, because this is not the issue. The void is the issue. The pain is the issue. What happened back here? Let's get to the issue. But they don't know how to do that because they're not trained to do that. Stop judging yourself. Another thing that ex-witnesses have that lingers from the religion is black and white thinking and a need to be right. Black and white thinking. How did we get there? Well, of course you have black and white thinking if you think you have the truth. You see, when you think you have the truth, it closes your mind. When you believe you have the truth, you simply defend what you think. You don't ask questions. You're not open to anything. You already have the truth. It's right and wrong. You're not going to go very far in life with black and white thinking. You're not going to grow very much with black and white thinking. Life comes with a lot of gray. People think what they think because of how they were raised, their experiences, what they were taught. There's so many variables that make a person think what they think. But this is not just a witness thing. This is true with people in general, right? I mean, people with politics. A lot of people with politics just take a side and they'll argue every point about the side that they've taken. And that's no different than the witnesses. Just black and white thinking, a need to be right. Prioritize a desire to understand over a need to be right. When I prioritize a need to understand a person, I can understand a person without necessarily agreeing with them. See, the non-agreement has to do with that perception may not fit my lens. It doesn't mean it doesn't fit another. It doesn't fit my lens. And that's how you can agree to disagree, because you can go, I can understand why you see what you see. And I can honor that and I can respect that. Witnesses don't respect anyone other than people who think what they think and exactly as they think, which leads us to the next thing that is a carryover from being a witness, is that witnesses are very bad listeners. And we can leave the religion and still be bad listeners. Why are witnesses bad listeners? Because they are not curious. They're not asking questions. They're looking to always just say what they think. When you went door to door, were you interested in what somebody else thought? Were you open to hearing them? Or were you just looking to make your point? They taught you to ask the householder this or ask that. You weren't asking with any kind of genuineness. You were asking so that you could sidestep and make your point. Everything had an agenda. Witnesses live life with an agenda. It makes you a bad listener. Again, when you say you have the truth, how can you be open? How can you be a listener? How can you be open to new ideas? How can you be open to growth? When you say you have the truth, you just capped yourself off. You can't grow past that. You have the truth. That's why witnesses are the same person at 80 as they were at 30. They're just old. They just get old. They don't grow. You would like to believe that with age comes wisdom. We want to believe that, but it's not true. Age comes all by itself for many people. When my mom passed away a few years ago, we had the Zoom memorial because it was during COVID 2020. And I saw all these people that I knew from 25, 30 years ago. And it was quite sad. I'm listening to them talk to each other. I'm like, you're exactly the same person. You just got old. You're exactly the same person. You got to be willing to listen. Witnesses are very bad listeners. That's why when a lot of you try to talk to your family, they might hang the phone up on you. They might gaslight you in their own particular way. They might end they get mad, they get enraged. They find a way to blame you for whatever is. They're bad listeners. They're not open to hearing another point of view. So we don't want to take that quality with us after we leave, being a bad listener. A good communicator is a good listener. Now, people want to think that a good communicator is a good talker. A good communicator is a good listener. A bad communicator is someone who is waiting to talk. Witnesses are always waiting to talk, right? Sometimes when somebody's expressing themselves, they're busy thinking of what scripture they're going to turn to next. That's all they're doing. They're listening to what scripture am I going to turn to? They're not listening. They're not actively listening. They're waiting to talk. So we don't want to carry that quality with us as we try to move forward. We must be good listeners. A good listener is also able to say, you know what? I was wrong. You know what? Whoa, you made a point. Hmm. I'm going to have to marinate on that. Wow, I never thought of it that way. I never looked through that lens. Whoa, you make a point. I might have to adjust something. That's how we grow. See, witnesses aren't willing to do that. You know, what's the first thing a lot of people hear when they leave the religion? When people hear that you're leaving or that you stop going to meetings and maybe you got some doubt, the first thing they say, if this isn't the truth, then what is? You hear that one before? If this isn't the truth, then what is? They're looking for absolute truth. No, I'm not looking for any person, any organization, any religion to have the truth. You find what resonates. You can find, I resonate with this here. I resonate with this here. I resonate with this here. I reject this and that. I reject a little bit of this. I reject, but you're finding what resonates from you from many sources. You don't have to buy everything. As I speak here every Sunday and you tune in to listen to me speak, you don't have to buy everything I say. Just take what resonates. And the silly thing is if you reject someone because you don't agree with one thing or two things. And 98 things you agree with, two things you don't, you just throw that whole thing out. You'll be going your whole life looking for something that resonates because nothing's going to resonate 100% always. And that's okay. But be a good listener. Be a good listener. Another thing that ex witnesses struggle with a lot of times is they say no to themselves very easily. They get too used to the word no. You deny yourself of opportunities because you are so easy to say no to yourself. And that's because you've heard no your whole life. As a child, you heard no, 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 no. You didn't even ask anymore. You already knew the answer was no. So you learn to deny yourself. You learn to not give yourself an opportunity. Even in this group, when we do things, we do a cruise most years and different things that we do in this group, people get excited initially, right? It looks like 100 people are coming, but by the time we go, we got 20. 22, 23 people, right? Because they say no to themselves too easily. Start learning to say yes. You say yes and you find out how to do it. When you claim something, your mind will figure it out. When you're so easy to say no, your mind will find the obstacles. See, your mind is always the super subconscious part of your mind. You got three components of your mind: your conscious, your subconscious, and your super subconscious. When you subconsciously have the thought that you're not worthy, this is going back to self esteem. When you have that thought that you're not worthy, and no is the way you usually go, your super subconscious mind will go, okay, let's find the obstacles. Let's find every reason why you can't. When you claim something and you just decide that you're going to do it, you claim it, you decide it, you own it, you don't know how. You don't have to worry about the how. The super subconscious will find the ways to do it. So become a yes person to yourself. Become a yes to your desires. So your mind figures it out. You must know what you want and why you want it. These two things: what you want and why you want it. What you don't need to know is how you're going to get it. Know what you want, have the desire of, know what you want, know why you want it, and then your mind, your super subconscious mind, will find the people, opportunity, and circumstances to bring it to life. It will identify it. It's magical. But learn to start saying yes to yourself. Another, the last point I'm going to cover is sometimes we have a problem getting close to people because of our history as Jehovah's Witnesses. We have a problem getting close to people because these are different people. These are people that we spent so many years disconnected from, ostracizing. They were worldly. Understand this: using the word worldly is like a racial slur. We put everybody in the same box. It's like a racial slur. It could be an old lady working at the soup kitchen, helping the homeless people 3 times a week. I mean, she just gives her soul to helping people. She's got the greatest heart. She's always adding value to people. She's worldly. And then the person that's selling drugs and beating up his wife and been in and out of prison and has a rap sheet that's a mile long, he's worldly too. We put them in the same box, didn't we? That's like a racial slur where you just call people of a certain race a slur, and you're not looking at people as individuals. Of course, you have a problem getting close to people you called worldly your whole life. Of course, you have a problem getting close to people in an intimate way when you never did that before. You see, you thought you had a lot of friends, and I've said this many times before. You thought you had this whole community when you were witnesses. Oh, look at all the friends I have. In fact, they call all of them friends, the friends, the friends. Those weren't your friends, those were your comrades. Those were not your friends, they were your comrades. You had a few friends, and you might have had a few friends, but most of them were your comrades. Comrades are people that you're in association with because you're part of something together. So you come into a bunch of money, you join the $50,000 a year country club because you made some money in crypto, and then crypto goes upside down. You got no more money. Where's your friends? Those weren't your friends, those were your comrades, your country club comrades. Witnesses are the same way. Your friends get closer to you in your time of need. Friends grow closer to you when you're struggling. If you have an addiction and you fall off the wagon, friends are there to help you, pick you back up, get you back on track. That's what friends do. Comrades abandon you. That's what witnesses do. When you're going through things, they abandon you. So, because you really did not have friends, most of us tried to keep a buffer because if I got too close to you, if I told you what was really going on in my life, you might turn me in. I might be doing some things. You're going to have to turn me in. You can't get too close to me. You can't really know what's going on in my life, right? I'm going to give you this image of brother all good, and I'm going to act a certain way and give you that, but you don't really know me. You don't really know what's going on in my life. You can only be so close. And then you get out in the real world and people really want to know you. They really want to get close. They really want to talk about things. And let's talk about all these things that you couldn't talk about as witnesses. There's so much you didn't talk about as witnesses. Then you have a problem getting close to people. Sometimes it's just not knowing how the rest of the world moves. Get curious about people. Stop being ashamed of your past as being a Jehovah Witness. Understand this. Most people are curious about things that they don't understand. And a lot of ex-witnesses want to hide the fact that they were once a witness because they feel ashamed. They feel like, I don't want to be the freak. No, people are curious. That's most people. We weren't curious. They are. So stop being ashamed of your past. Be curious about people. You know what people's favorite subject is? And that's everybody, themselves. Get curious about people. Embrace people. And don't feel like you got to agree. Again, when you're witnesses, you're programmed to agree. We all think the same thing. What do we think about sex? All the same thing. What do we think about politics? All the same thing. What do we think about using blood? All the same thing. What do we think about? Everything was the same. Get comfortable with differences. Get curious about people and stop pushing people away because you think that something's wrong with you, because nothing is wrong with you, my friends. All right, so let's bring the panel up. We should have a good discussion. We got Gary, Deb, we got Jack, Tanya, we got Christine. All right, let's get this discussion going. Christine.
Wow, that was awesome. So good. And just in line with what I'm thinking about for myself too, just processing who am I, why am I here? So thank you for that. And just really learning, like, I have been clearing that self or the subconscious. Your boot camp was really the first sign, and I never thought to go back and look at what I learned in the organization. I left at 13 as a child, and so those pivotal years when we're younger, definitely. And I really feel that around women and how we're taught to just, be lowly, that it's great to be lowly and not think of yourself, and that we're to think of everyone else before ourselves. All of that resonated so much. And I just want to say thank you. And for you, when you and I had our first call, during that time when you were helping me and I was going through your boot camp, and you were sharing with me, how we haven't been told that we're worthy or what necessarily people have seen in us. And you're like, you're a trailblazer. And that was the first time I really had heard that from someone other than my family, of course, that are encouraging. But yeah, it was really pivotal. I was like, okay, yeah, I actually do feel I'm here to help people heal who feel repressed, whether it's, from religion, sexually, not knowing what to do in life in that sort of manner. And so I think it's really cool. And taking those golden nuggets, if we can't go back and change it, I'm going to adopt this. So thank you. If we can't go back and change it, what did you learn? That is so cool, because those are the golden nuggets. And during the time in the Facebook group with the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I really started to look at, okay, yes, so we did a lot of things we didn't want to do, but what did I learn? What are the golden nuggets that I could take from the things? We're all good teachers. We know how to talk to people. We know how to be the weird ones and be okay with it in a sense. We know how to talk about things that are really important to us, even if other people aren't for that or they have a different opinion. We are okay with that because we were trained in that sense. So there's so many positives that we can use, I feel, to help other people. And it's just figuring out what lights you up, what feels really good to you, and then go help someone in that capacity. So today was really, I think, just so good overall for helping people to move forward. Why are you here? What do you have control over? And then go do it. You don't need permission from anyone else. Just like go ahead and, fill your cup in whatever way feels good to you. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you for the share. It's so true, right? That, we all have something. And like you said, what's your passion? What's that thing that lights you up? And now you get to share that instead of having someone tell you, what that is. what lights you up. And trust me, you will do so much more good in the world if you are sharing what lights you up, because that is coming from you, and that's a fire that will just keep burning within you, because you were created to share that is in you, like it is in no one else. You are here to be authentically and fully you, and then share that with others. I love it. Jack?
Okay, cool. So we go to service. I went to service and I met this lady who, she really knew her Bible, like inside out. So I was a little bit taken back by it because my skills back then were not that good with, all the scriptures and stuff. So I went on a return visit with an elder, and I thought maybe we can start a Bible study or something, right? And this woman, like, she knew her stuff. Like, she was prepared. She had like three translations of the Bible. Like, she was prepared for that day. And and I saw the elder getting very uncomfortable very quickly. I was excited. I was like, this woman knows stuff that maybe we don't. Maybe we can learn something from her, even, right? Like, I want to know how she thinks. What did she find out about the other translations and stuff? Well, the other elder got so uncomfortable. He at one point said, "You know what? This conversation has to end." And I was like, "We're just getting started. Like, what's going on, right?" And then he just got up and started getting his stuff, and he's leaving. And I'm like, "What the hell? That never happened ever." And I'm like, "That's weird, but okay." We left, and I'm like very perplexed. So I'm like, "Why did you do this? Like, why did you get up?" And he says, "Well, you gotta understand. We're here to preach to people. We're not here to be preached to." And she was not receptive. Like, she would not learn anything from us because she had her mind already set up, and she was just trying to prove that she's right and we're wrong and so on. And I'm like, that's what we were doing. But I never had that mindset. But that helped me to understand that most Jehovah's Witnesses have that mindset. I actually appreciated when people contradicted me and started sharing their viewpoints in service, because I'm like, oh, I never thought of that, right? But the majority of witnesses, you were absolutely right, and I'm glad you touch upon this subject, where even when they're quiet, you're thinking they're listening. They're not listening. All what they're doing in their mind is preparing their defense. They're just thinking, okay, this is what he's saying. How am I going to defend my belief now to prove that he's wrong? So it seems like he's listening, but he's not. He's just looking for what to do, what to say after, and how to judge that person. And you can't judge and help the other person. It's one or the other. And we were very judgmental. We were, believing that we were right. And as long as you believe you have the truth and everybody else doesn't, there's no way you're going to help anybody. So that experience really helped me, and what you mentioned to them is 100% true. You cannot have a discussion or an open conversation with a Jehovah's Witness, because what's happening in their mind is always, okay, I'm listening just so I can prepare my defense. There is nothing like, okay, we're discussing things because we can learn from each other. Maybe you have different point of view. Maybe you know something I don't. None of that. None of that. We had one source, one channel of communication, and the information was controlled, and that was true. Everything else that disagrees with it was wrong. Uh, Now that we left it, very often we have similar mindset. They were like, okay, now you see this often. And people are like, okay, I found Jesus, and then Jesus is the answer, and they're trying to convert everybody else to the same way of thinking, or something else, and then just switched from one set of beliefs to another set of beliefs, and their mind is so closed that when you're discussing with them, you're thinking you're gonna make some progress. You're not gonna make any progress because their mind is not open. They're not willing to accept any of your beliefs. But it's not about judging them or criticizing them. It's recognizing that pattern in us. Do we still have it? Do we still have pattern of thinking, oh, that person is like this in this category, therefore, we can judge them and not help them. And if we recognize this in ourselves, then we can change it. There's a lesson there. And we're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I got to be a little bit more open minded. I got to actually listen to people. I got to see if what they have to say, there's something I don't know, right? And that curiosity can open our mind.
You made a good point. Witnesses tend to have a false humility. Um, the false humility comes from because they think too little of themselves,
Hmm.
but they think a lot of their beliefs, right? So in that thinking little of self but much about your belief, it's still ego, right? It's ego that made that elder want to walk away from that woman because he can't be wrong. As long as he had something to say, he would have stayed. Knowing that this was going to be a lesson for him, he's going to shut down and leave. So it is a false humility. There's a lot of ego there. I found that when I first left, that was one of the biggest things I had to get over. Is I realized that, my God, I don't like to be wrong. I hated it, and I had to understand that I can't grow. There's no growth in a person that doesn't want to be wrong. I can't grow unless I change that. That ego that came from the witnesses where I have the truth, and that will bleed off to other areas of your life. For a lot of women who are married to men who are witnesses, right? He's the head of the house. He's right. Period. You had no say because he's was stuck in ego and wasn't open to anything. It's just a chain of command, right? And you were under that, and that's the way it was. So, understanding that, um, letting go of ego, knowing of self, and having the confidence in self does not mean you're stuck in ego. It means you just know what you do well. But there's always need for improvement and always something to learn. That's what we do on planet Earth is we learn, we grow. It's a never-ending process. And at some point, we're going to find things that don't serve us anymore, and we change our mind and we take another direction in life, and that's okay. Okay. Next, Gary.
Yeah, that tendency to think we know everything, like the way the JWs think, it goes right into what the two of the topics you mentioned, which is black and white thinking as well as being judgmental. And when you think about it, it started when we were first attracted to the so-called truth. Now we might have been raised in, but at some point we decided that yeah, I definitely want to get baptized. I definitely want to be a regular pioneer for whatever reason. So at some point we kind of fell in love with the truth, the fact that we could know all this stuff. And what it very often comes down to is that it was an answer to something that was out of our control otherwise. So, for example, maybe somebody we love died, or we had a health problem, or the economy is just, oh, Uncle Sam's always stealing our money. Uncle Sam being the American term for the government. There's always some kind of an issue that's really out of our control, and we need to control our environment as humans. That's the way we are. So the message of the JWs with the kingdom is going to solve everything, and you don't have to lift a finger. Yeah, you got to go out and service and everything, but it's going to do all this with its own ingenuity and everything. So what happens when we leave? I view it as like almost like a Jackson Pollock painting when we all leave the organization and we get splattered all over the place. It's like there's just he would like hover over a canvas and just splatter paint out of a can, and it would he knew what he was doing, but there's a certain amount of randomness to it. So we end up as a bunch of red splotch over up here believing this, and somebody else is a yellow thing over here and blue over there, and that's beautiful. We're a painting. We're like a mosaic, a big mural because we're so different from the old JW way where everybody kind of thought the same way. So we're free to think whatever we want to think. But what I've seen happen very often is people go right into another belief system because they still need to control their environment. They still don't have their mom back, or they still don't have their health back, or they still have economic problems, whatever. It hasn't really improved a whole lot, and there's still this human need to control it. And all of a sudden this other belief system comes along, and it could be any number of ones, so I'm not picking on any particular one, but let's just say it has to do with our attitude toward governments and some sort of a hidden agenda or what have you, and we plug into a certain source of information that we think, wow, I've learned so much from it, and then what ends up happening is we believe anything from that source. and we're not really thinking critically. So we really haven't learned to think critically yet. We learned to leave the JW teachings behind, but we're not applying critical thinking to this new set of beliefs either. Well, again, we're free to believe whatever we want to believe, but if we really look at it and realize that we've fallen into that trap again of thinking everything I believe is true, I'm always right, or if I don't have the answer, I know exactly where to get it. I'm going to turn to this person's videos. Well, it's kind of hard to solve that, So if you're talking to somebody and your friend says, "Hey, you know what? Seems to me like you're just doing the same thing you used to do. You just believe everything, and you want me to believe everything." And if we point that out, the person that believes that they believe everything is probably not going to see it, just like we didn't see that the truth is not the truth. But so I think what we just need to do is think critically and say, am I doing the same black and white kind of thinking that I did when I was a JW, thinking that everything I now believe, everything that JWs believe is wrong, and everything I now believe is right, as opposed to like all the people on this panel. I just know these people. The thought is, I want to learn something today. What can I learn from the other person on the panel? Maybe it's going to even make me reconsider something I already thought I believed. So that's the thing, I think, is to realize that it can really be a trap to fall into just another set of beliefs that might be the polar opposite of the JWs. But if we're still have that black and white judgmental thinking where everything we believe is right, and you hear expressions like, "Oh, they're not woke yet." In other words, somebody doesn't believe all the stuff that I know about the governments and the whole agenda and all this stuff. They're not woke. That's a judgmental thing to say. If you ever catch yourself saying that I'm woken up, they're not woke, you got to pretty much figure that, wow, maybe I'm being judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah. So, staying out of black and white thinking and respecting that everyone is on their own journey. And if it's working for them, it's working for them, just respecting it and seeing where you agree more than just picking out where you don't. Okay. Next. Debbie.
I think we need empower hours, not hour, because all of these topics that you touched on today were really amazing and beautiful. The first one, though, is the one that really touched me because that was my huge awakening, being in the organization. And how could I not know myself if everyone is mirroring to me the inability to know themselves also, right? Especially as a woman. I have all these different ideas of who I should be and what I can or cannot do, right? So it was inevitable that I actually kind of woke up in it because I was feeling inside of me this other part that was saying, but you can do certain things, or you're capable of stepping into larger spaces. So the contrast was when I'm leaving the organization and I start to meet people who know who they are, and they start to show me in conversation and mirroring who I am. I still had an issue with it. Like I still would say to someone who, like my mentor yesterday, has this, vision of what he sees I can do. And in the back of my mind, I'm still going, yeah, I hear you. And okay, but he's seeing me for who I am because he knows who he is. And I think these kind of people that you meet when you leave are so instrumental for your growth, because if they didn't ask me to consider, who am I? Why am I here? What do I want? I would not have been able to recognize those things, right? So that self-worth thing that we don't have in an organization, I think it can only expand when we're willing, when we leave, to ask ourselves those questions and to also kind of pay attention to the people who are showing up in our lives that are kind of saying to us, whispering to us, do you realize that you have this capacity to step out in the world and make it a better place? So I love that first one, Rodney. I love the whole I am affirmations, because I live by those to kind of like undo the things that I thought about myself that weren't true, and to step into I am capable, I am wise, I am knowledgeable, I am able to speak to people, I am able to bring something to the world that's really meaningful. I have to say thank you to those people, and thank you to you and everybody else who's on this panel today, because we're doing the work that it takes to become self-actualized, really. So thank you, but we need more time.
I love some of the things that you mentioned. You know, you're such an impressive person, the way you live your life, and yet you understand the need to have mentors, to be in situations where you're not the smartest person in the room, right? So even for me, even though I do this with the group and you know the things that I do here, I love to put myself in situations where I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room. There's situations and masterminds I put myself in where I'm actually the quiet one because those people know so much more. And again, as witnesses, we tended to not do that, right? And we tended to just follow people because of their position. Okay. Like I had four elders who used to work for me, and I saw them every day, and I'm like, these dudes are not very smart at all. Right? I see you every day, right? But you have a position because of what your service, being what you appeared to be, but to actually be around people who live life a certain way and have the fruits of it, and to put yourself around these people. And I don't care what level you go to, find another level where you're not the smartest person in the room again, right? And you're going to keep growing. You're going to keep asking questions. You're going to keep seeing things that don't fit in your life anymore. You're going to keep seeing where you've outgrown certain things in your life because there's nothing but growth. Thank you so much, Debbie. All right. Tanya, what do you have?
Hi, thank you for inviting me to be on the panel. I'm super excited to be here for the first time. So you had so many good points. I don't know where to begin, but you started with talking about layers, and this happens in layers, and that's how I've approached this whole reprocessing, really just redoing an entire belief system, which I started, I guess, probably about 20 years ago now. And it is layers. You know, it's interesting. I loved all the points you made, and some of them, like, okay, I've worked on that. I've worked on that. Like the black and white thinking. Okay, yep, I question my beliefs on regularly. Like, wait, is that still true? Does that still feel true? Because ultimately, you're in ownership of your own truth, right? We own our own truth. That's one thing we claim back when we get out. We can own our truth, and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's, and that's a beautiful thing, right? It's diversity. We're all uniquely different, as you said. I mean, we're meant to be that way. We all have different fingerprints. None of us have the same fingerprint. Well, that's a reason, because we're all unique individuals, and that's how it's supposed to be. And we're in this world. So, but going back to peeling back these layers, right, of belief systems. And it, like I said, it's not an overnight process. It's, it's a step by step, because I'm still at this point, even of doing all this work for so many years, finding myself saying no to myself. Wait, why am I saying no to that? That, because sometimes it's just that automatic, like, can I do that? Is that okay? Who am I asking it's okay? Right. Because there's no, I get to own my own truth. So those things will still happen and come up, and almost have to be really recapitulated all over again to move yourself forward. And the learning process never stops, never, ever stops. Regardless of where we are, it doesn't matter, because I can learn. It helps me actually to hear people who were a little bit newer out, because I'm out and I don't really pay attention to what's going on. So it's interesting, because at this point I am what I call scraping the bottom of the barrel, the stuff that got programmed in me when I was very young, right? I mean, before I had the ability to decipher truth and not truth, right? So we all this programming as a child. And so sometimes when things get brought up, I'm like, ooh, I forgot about that. Like, because I've, threw it all out. And so sometimes these words, that these phrases that come back, like, oh my gosh, that is a thing. I remember that. And then I can go back and look at where I am. Have I really erased that? Or have I really looked at that and said, okay, and it takes a long time. I mean, I think that's what we have to give ourselves so much grace and so much self-love and all of that, because this is not an overnight process. I had this discussion with, people, and it's like, it's kind of a lifelong thing, really, because there's some stuff in there. And I liken it a lot to a computer. When whoever built the computer owns the operating system, and they understand how to work it, and that we were programmed with an operating system that's AKA our subconscious. And so sometimes we function at that level unknowingly, and so even after you've gotten rid of some of the big chunks of stuff, the big chunks of things, there's still these little threads and this little gunk way at the bottom of the barrel that's just like, oh, that's an interesting reaction. I just had this trigger, I just had this trigger. I had this interesting reaction to this. What's going on with me? Because it's always about us, right? It's always about how we can, if we're looking to grow in this world, it's in this life, and to be our authentic self, it's a constant job. It's just a constant, oh, wait, why did I react to that? Why am I feeling a certain way about this? And understanding. And the more we understand, the more we can break free. It's really self-liberation. What it all comes down to is we're liberating ourselves, even though it seems daunting for some people. And, sometimes people want to kind of run from that kind of level of internal work, but really we're liberating ourselves through this work. And that's, you can't buy that. You can't, nobody else can give it to you. But you can give it to yourself. And that's the empowerment part, which is why I love you so much, Rodney, because this is like, empowerment's my word, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to empower ourselves and empower other people to make their own choices and find their own truth in life. And that's huge. And then, have impact on other people. So thanks again for let me be here.
I love it. So all you women that are watching, just look at these three amazing empowered women and know that we all have a gift. This body's just a vessel, right? It's just what we get around in, right? Don't tell yourself that you're lesser than, or your thoughts are lesser than, or your value is lesser than because we got different plumbing. That's silly, okay? We all have value. We all have things that make us very, very unique and special. And remember, growth is constant, not just for XJWs, for everyone, right? Not only are we healing things of the past, but we're also in different seasons of life. What may have been important 10 years ago is no longer important today, right? People that may have had massive value in our lives, we might outgrow. So we're always cleaning up, we're always growing, we're always expanding. So my friends, keep that in mind. Do not get hung up on stories that limit yourself. Remember, everything in your life begins with the desire of. It doesn't begin with the knowing of the knowing what even. It's the desire to know. Water and fertilize your desire, and then you will begin to find your way slowly. Like Tanya just said, it's not overnight. Be patient. That's one thing that most people do not have an excess of. Patience. Nothing is overnight. Caterpillar does not become a butterfly overnight. Everyone, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your Sunday. Do something fun, do something that enriches yourself, do something that nourishes yourself. Have a great day. See you next week.